Hello and welcome to our tutorial on how to create a low poly human base mesh. In today's tutorial we're going to look at how we can create a low polygon human base mesh, so to create a very simple human 3D model in a relatively short amount of time. And this is what we call a low poly model because it's got a low polygon or face count, and if we go into edit mode we can see there's not that many polygons in this image. And if we go to the top we can actually see that this 3D model has only got 592 faces, so it is very low poly. And we're going to use a reference image to help us guide our modelling today. I've downloaded one from Google, and it's this one here by Andrew Loomis and adapted by Jack Monahan from Gorseworks. And we're going to use this as a guide for when we're modelling out our human to keep the proportions correct. So download that from Moodle or off the web if you haven't already. So I'm going to open up my new startup file, so I'm going to reload my startup file first. And we're going to start modelling our human base mesh using a simple cube as always. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get our reference image into Blender itself. So we're going to go and toggle on quad view so we can see our workspace from a variety of different angles. And we use the little plus icon here to open it out and scroll down to the bottom to where it says background images. Give that a tick and open the drop down. And we need to add in the image we're going to use by ticking add image and then clicking open. Navigate to where you saved your image. I know mine is on the desktop of my computer, so I've just selected it there. Now in the add image options there's lots of things going on here. I'll quickly talk you through the main ones. We can add an image or a movie clip. Here's the image file that we've selected here. We can then say what window on our workspace, whether we want it in the perspective window, the right window, the front window or the top window. So what window this image appears in. At the minute it's set to all views, but we really want to do it one at a time, so I'm going to set this to front and it will just be our front view down here. Then when we've selected the window it's going to be in, we then need to move the image so that it lines up with our cube, and we do this using the offset sliders down the bottom here. Click and hold down and drag them around so that it's roughly in the right space. And you might need to fine tune it a little bit. So 2.95. There we go. And once we've got that in the front window, we can click the little arrow to drop that back down, and we're going to add another image, and we can do exactly the same. I'm going to select the same image before, Loomis for me, and this time I'm going to change it from all views to right, and that should be enough for me to work with for today. And then once again just change the offset so that it's roughly in the centre. Perfect. Okay, now we can close that down. Or one more thing we could do actually is we can set it in front of our model. So we've got the back and front option, so we can say whether we want it kind of transparent around our model, and I'm going to choose front so we can see the model through the background image through the model. There we go, that makes it easier. So that's just clicking the front option there to make them semi-transparent your model. So first things first, let's scale down our cube so it's roughly the size of the guy's waist and move it around using the transform arrows. Okay, perfect. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to apply a mirror modifier to our model, so whatever we do on the left side it will do it on the right. So if we go into, first of all, go into edit mode, select loop cut and slide, and we're going to slice our model right down the centre there. So I'm going to hover over my front orthographic, give it a click, and we see it's now sliced that model in half. Press Z to go into transparent mode, and then I'm going to use the face select tool, and I'm going to hold down Control to bulk select. I'm going to select all the faces on one side. They're all selected. I'm going to press delete and delete the faces. Okay, now we've only got half of our model. We're going to go into the modifiers tab, which is the spanner, and we're going to add the mirror modifier, which will basically do a copy of anything we do on one side, it will do it on the other, which is very useful and time saving for us as modelers. I'm going to then select the edge select, and what we're going to do is start changing the shape of our model to match the contours of the human body from the front angle. So I'm going to select this top edge here, which is here, and I'm going to use the red arrow to move it out. And then I'm going to select the face select tool, I'm going to select the bottom and push that up, and we can see that what I'm doing here is I'm going to start to extrude out and change the shape so that it roughly matches the contours of the body. So E for extrude again. And we keep toggling between face select and edge select. We use the face select when we want to extrude down, and the edge select when we want to change the shape of what we're extruding. And go back up to the top of my torso. And this is the basic process we're going to use today for our modelling. And we'll do it from the front perspective, and then we'll go in and we'll edit it from the back perspective afterwards. And we see, although it doesn't look like much when we look at it from this angle, we can see that we're already shaping this model very much like a human body. So right click and select the bottom face, and then I'm going to keep on extruding. Edge select, I'm going to reshape this leg. So, and I am just following the contours down here of the body, and you'll see I'm matching up my model as I'm doing it with the way that the body's shape is. I'm blitzing through this quite quickly, but you can take as much time as you like with this and get it absolutely perfect. One thing I'd say is try not to use too many polygons. Obviously every time we extrude we're making new polygons. You really do want less polygons. The less polygons the better. And it doesn't look much like a human, but we can see the shape is starting to, the form and the shape is starting to take effect. I'll hold down shift my middle mouse button to move my perspective view up over here. And I'm going to start work on the arms. I can see that I've still got a little bit of work to do to bring, there we go, that in line with the arm there. I've extruded out only a little at the shoulder, at the bottom, and then I'm going to select the top edge here and I'm going to drag this out to make the shoulder there, and then reshape this as well ever so slightly and push it back in. There we go. We'll move that so that's around the middle of the bicep to give a bit more shape and definition to the arm there. And for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to go in depth with the hands. I'm just going to do a very, very simple hand model. So I'm not going to do all the fingers necessarily, just to save a little bit of time on the tutorial. Okay, and we'll do a very, very simple head as well. In either one of the next tutorials, we will be doing a proper tutorial on how to create a low poly head. So we'll do a full tutorial on that. But for now, for today, we're just going to create a very, very simple human head. Okay. Use loop cut up the top here. Add in a loop cut. I'm just going to expand this, just so it's got some of the features of a human head, if not all of the features. It's got some of the form and shape. Okay, so if we have a look at our model from the front, okay, we can actually see now that it's roughly in proportion to the human male body. Okay, but when we look at it from the side, obviously it looks nothing like a human. So now this is where we reverse our workflow and we move to our side window over here. And once again, we're going to use the same process of using the edge select tool to reshape our model. So let's start to select edges and push them in line with on this model over here. And like I say, the head's going to be the least perfect part of it because we're going to actually do a full tutorial on low poly head modelling. Today, really, we just want the basic base mesh of a human. And we can see now, if we have a look down here, our head is starting to look a bit more human-like rather than just a series of blocks. So let's come back around here and let's start working on the torso. In fact, what might be more useful, because our arm is actually blocking our view there, is instead if we change the right orthographic view to the left orthographic view, so left perspective, and let's turn that orthographic over here, and then go back into our images and change the axes of the right image to the left image. In fact, I'm going to turn that back to right. So let's keep on selecting these edges and pulling them in. And what I'm going to do, just to make this a bit easier for now, because we can come to the arm next, is I'm going to bulk select all the faces on the arm, just pull these in a bit to roughly where the arm is on that side, and likewise I'm going to select all the faces on here, and I'm holding down shift and right clicking to bulk select these, and then using the green arrow to just change these to roughly the right size. And this will make it easier now as we use the edge select tool to move in our torso and line it up down here in the right kind of contour. And it can be a very fiddly and time consuming process matching all of these up, but we're just pushing all the points in so that they match the silhouette of our proportional model. And if we zoom out now, we can see our model is looking much more human-like, and at the minute we've only got 120 faces, so we are starting to get there with this now. Okay, let's add a bit more depth to our model, and it's going to increase the polygon count, the face count, but it's going to make it easier to do some much more interesting model now, because we've got our basic shape. If we come out of edit mode and pan around, we've actually got a very simple human base mesh there. And I'm going to come out of my quad view now, and I'm going to toggle quad screen off and go into my normal full screen mode and have a look around. So there we go. It's starting to come together, but we still need to add a bit more depth to our model and round off some of these edges and make them more human-like, because it is still very boxy at the moment. So go back into edit mode, and we're going to select loop, cut and slide, and we're going to slice our model all the way down the side along all the axes. There we go, perfect. And then we're going to use our edge select tool here, and we're going to start to now drag in and soften some of the edges on our human model. So I'm even going to use my vertex tool, and we're going to do that on all sides. And through doing this now, we'll stop our model being quite so hard edged. Ooh, but not that way. And if we come around to the back as well. And it's made our person change from kind of a Minecraft boxy figure to a figure that's much more human-like in its contours. And we'll go to work on the feet in a second. Let's go to the arms and repeat that same process. So select an edge and then drag it in towards the center point a little. just soften some of those hard lines there. And it's important to make sure, obviously, that as you're moving the edges, you are being aware of which direction you're moving them in. So I'm using my green arrow to move on my y-axis, which works for me. And a couple of little vertexes there. Select those and move those in as well. And just keep repeating that process until it feels a bit more natural, the shape of the person. And we can do that with the face a little bit as well, and the head. And like we said, we're not going to worry too much about the face for this tutorial because we will go more in detail with it next time. I will add one more loop cut and slide at that point though, and just drag it in so we've got much more of a pronounced kind of neck. And there we go. So we've got our very basic human base mesh. If I wanted to, I could have a little play with the feet because those don't look quite perfect. I'd probably move the little toe end back and drag in the heel over this side, and likewise at the back, drag in a little bit as well. And that's a bit more realistic. So we've got a very basic human base mesh, and with this now we can do some much more interesting things. We could apply our modifier for our mirror, and if we go into edit mode now, we can edit both sides. We could continue to subdivide this using a multi-resolution modifier. So if we then go back into object mode and subdivide it by clicking the subdivide button, make a more human model. I can see that there's been a problem there, so I'm just going to press Ctrl and Z a couple of times to go back to my mirror modifier. One important thing before you apply the mirror modifier, untick it and just double check. If you've got any faces down the centre where the body meets, you need to delete those. So I'm going to go into edit mode, select all the faces where the body meets in the middle, and we delete those because otherwise it kind of sucks the model into itself in the middle when it joins it. So delete those faces, turn the X back on, get back into object mode and apply that, get back into multi-resolution, subdivide it again, and there we go, we've got our very basic human model. Next week we'll be looking at how to create a low poly human head and how we can join that to our model, as well as looking at stuff like clothes modelling in the next few weeks, and then how to rig and animate our model at the end. Thank you for watching and good luck with your modelling.